Welcome to my Mystical Conversation podcast. This is Sue Frederick. I want to have a mystical conversation with you, the kind where we lose ourselves in the wonders of divine mysteries, share dreams from the other side, intuitive nudgings, and soul mission yearnings. Together, we explore your soul's journey, why you came here, what you came to accomplish, who you came to love, and what challenges and gifts you brought with you. We'll lift above this earthly story, these troubling times, and immerse ourselves in the divine wisdom of the soul. A mystical conversation is like a spiritual retreat for everyone involved. And that's what this podcast is for all of you listeners, where we go and remember our soul and just wrap ourselves, marinate ourselves in that spiritual wisdom that is all of our birthright. So I'm Sue Frederick, the author of 8 books, including Bridges to Heaven and Your Divine Lens. And I'm an ordained unity minister, a master numerologist, and an intuitive coach. I've helped thousands of clients remember their soul mission and move forward to live their best life. If you'd love to know more about my work, go to SueFrederick.com. So I am so honored today to have this amazing guest with me. Her name is Susanne Janine, and she is a amazing soul. I've worked with her for probably more than 10 years. And what's even more amazing about her is that she's always been an angelic soul wisdom person as long as I've known her. But today she's going to talk about this last year of her life, which has been profound. So let me give you her intro here. Susanne is a nurse practitioner, certified in family practice medicine and dermatology. She has worked in holistic and allopathic medicine and healthcare for over 30 years. Her biggest passion is the spiritual path, the connection to the divine, and how to best help others on this earth. Susanne had the good fortune of being born into a family whose passion was God also. And so it lit her soul on fire from an early age. Some of her first memories were seeing her parents pray at home, and she learned to talk to God at a very early age. She started meditating and doing yoga at age 15 and has been actively meditating for 48 years. Did you guys hear that? 48 years she's been meditating. Her biggest challenge, however, came 1 year ago when she was diagnosed with leukemia and spent the last year fighting for her life. Well, Susanne, say hello.
Hello, Sue. Hello, everyone.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here. You are such an angelic soul. You're an inspiration to everyone. And just for my numerology people, I'm just telling you that Susanne is on the Leo 7 path. And that is 7 is the number of spiritual pursuit when it's done well, when you live up to the high side of that path, as Susanne has done. And the Leo is the heart of the healer, which she truly is. And she's also on a 7 personal year, which means whammy. No wonder this year has been such a transformative time, because the 7 personal year is lining her up with her 7 soul mission. So everything is getting her to become that spiritual guide teacher she came to be. So I guess my first question to you, Susanne, is, I told the listeners that you were having the year of fighting for your life. So maybe we should start there, and you could start with a year ago and what happened.
Oh, yes. Wow. You just never know. It's what I feel like. I've
Mhm.
always, excuse me, heard and said life can turn on a dime, and basically that's what happened to me. I feel like, and many others have said that I was one of the healthiest people that they knew. I think that I knew, we all, have an occasional Cheetos or something.
Right.
But yeah, I was like really into health food and, really tried to be very diligent about that. But a year ago, I started having some pretty significant chest pains and in my ribs and my sternum and so forth. And then I went to the emergency room and they basically said, nothing's wrong and, your cardiac is fine and things like that. And then like a couple of weeks later, I'm like, I know something's wrong and I had bruises and so forth. So I actually ordered my own blood tests as a nurse practitioner. I can do that. And they came back and I saw these labs across my desk and I said, wow, that person has leukemia. And then I saw it was my name.
Oh my
And so I'm like, wow.
goodness.
So I just told my office manager in a not very skillful way. I kind of regret that, but I said, I have leukemia. I need to go to the emergency room. So, move on my patients. And so
Oh my
I went to
goodness.
the yes, and I went to the emergency room and then I was hospitalized for 4 weeks at that time. And I had acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is a childhood leukemia. The large majority of people that get it are children,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really quite deadly in adults. So that started this year of fighting for my life, and knowing, basically knowing inside that I was going to be okay. But then there were moments when it looked like I wasn't, and coming very, very close to death 3 times in the last year
Mm-hmm.
and now being in remission. So it's been
Well,
quite a
first,
journey.
I just want to say that I watched Susanne walking through this journey. We talked and connected several times during it, and just to admire her courage for a moment, one of the first things she wanted to do was do a soul regression session after the diagnosis so that she could go and have a conversation with her spirit guides about what the lesson is in the illness, because Susanne and I both believe that if your body presents an illness, it's something that your soul is asking you to learn and grow through. And so she wanted to go have that conversation with her guides about what is the lesson in this, and even ask them, if I learn the lesson now and act on it, do I have to go through all the hard stuff? Because
Yes.
as humans, we always want to say, is there a shortcut?
Please give me one. Yeah.
And Susanne, do you want to share just a brief thing of what the spirit guides told you in that soul
Sure.
regression?
Yeah, and I have to, I was very, very intrigued by all of it, but I've never really had it happen to me. And I've never had a session before like you gave me.
Mhm.
And immediately I was put with one of my guides who you said ask his name. His name was Roku. And I
Mm,
thought, well, that's just strange. I don't believe that I've heard this right because, I think of the digital system, for watching movies or something. And I'm like, that
mhm.
can't be right. And yet he kept saying that was his name, super happy. And so I asked him, what's the significance of this illness? And I was in the hospital at the time, Sue.
I
I was
remember
really, I was very, very sick at the time.
you had
And
your
they
laptop on the bed, and the nurses were coming in and doing things to you while you were talking to me
yes,
on your laptop.
I know, and I just wanted them to leave. But anyway, I was very, very sick and I was down and out because they'd started chemotherapy and
Mhm,
you just kind of go to the bottom of the
mhm,
your health. Anyway, so I asked what was the significance of this illness and he laughed and he said, "What illness? What illness?" he said. And
mm,
I was like, wow. And I said, so, the illness that I have. And he said, what illness? And
mm,
I was just like, I'll never forget that. And at the time, I thought, well, maybe he's just seeing me from a soul level where, you are perfectly healthy and divine.
mhm,
But it was also like, you can do your work here on the earth, and then you will be healed from this, is basically what the station
mhm,
was telling me. Like if I didn't want to complete what I was doing and go on to the next level, I could, just be done with this life. But I
mhm,
made it very clear that I did wanted to do what I need to do because I always want to do that. I always want to do what is my highest purpose here? How
Yeah.
can I glorify God in the best way? How can I help others? How
Mhm.
can I be a divine messenger for for anyone? How can I help them and lift them up?
And you certainly are, because anybody who follows Suzanne and her Facebook post or social media, even in her darkest moments of chemotherapy and certain, complications, cancer is never a straight road. There's always a complication, a twist and a turn. And with everyone, she met it with grace, with wisdom, with love, with courage. I mean, way better than I would have done, Suzanne.
Oh, I don't know about
I
that,
think
Sue,
I
but I
think
don't
I
want.
would have been a crying baby at most of the points of it, but you were just so beautiful and gracious and strong. And so one of the things that I think was interesting is somewhere in that soul regression session, we talked about how this was a moment that your soul had agreed to as sort of a personal crucifixion moment, and what in metaphysics we talk about the crucifixion as death of ego, liberation of the soul, and also that it was your crucifixion and your year of living dangerously on the
That's
edge.
right. That resonates with me.
And I think it's also interesting that as you were going through this, walking the journey, you had been you still are an amazing businesswoman running all of these medical treatment centers, and you began the process of selling that. Is that correct?
Yes, I did because I was just rather overwhelmed with, like healing myself. And then also I was kind of told that I need to, do something else. Like I will be given, basically the gift of a different type of healing or another type of healing if I
Hmm.
obey, basically. And so part of it was I need to pass this off to someone else if I can. So I did.
And you did. I mean, that's another thing for all of us to take note of, is that in every illness, there is a message of change. So it's like our ego self wants to hold on to our identity in the world. And yet, as we walk through the crucifixion of an illness, we're going through a reinvention. And so with Suzanne, even though she was incredibly successful financially, and she was making a huge difference in all of her patients' lives, she had to say, I release that with trust that walking through this illness will bring me to my next level of being a healer. Um, and it's funny because I asked Suzanne, what do you think gave you the strength to keep rallying no matter what complication you hit, no matter how hard the chemo was? And her answer was, go ahead and say it, Suzanne.
Yes, it's definitely years of meditation and prayer and the spiritual life because
That's right.
I didn't realize how much it had impacted my life till you are facing death or you're facing your darkest moments in your life. And then I definitely had that phrase in the Bible, the peace that passes understanding.
Hmm.
I constantly felt that. And it was a divine peace that I had, when I shouldn't have, right?
Hmm.
When I
Hmm.
shouldn't have been at peace. And I had my moments, don't get me wrong, but they were usually because I was sharing a room with someone who didn't turn off the TV even at night and things like that, where I
Yeah.
couldn't find silence. That was my hardest things I went through, really.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you're such an angel. I think I would have been a raging lunatic if somebody had the TV on all night.
Oh, it was really kind of the one of my hardest moments, really. I called one of my teachers, Pujari, and I said, I just don't know how to do this. And he said, well, just act like this is going to be forever because what you're doing is resisting it.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
so if you embrace this moment, and embrace that soul that,
Hmm.
needs that whatever, and,
Hmm.
send them love and things. And it turned into a completely different situation. And then it was like, one day and it was over, but it seemed like it was going to be an eternity. So that, yeah.
So what I love about that is, your teacher said, act like this will be forever and quit resisting it. Man,
Yes.
that is what we all need to remember, no matter what we're walking through. You know, if it's a career
Yes.
upheaval or a relationship ending or our own health challenge, or even the world political unrest, you know, let's accept it. Yes, this is how things are now. And so I will find a way to walk through it with grace. And it's funny
Yes.
that you even say that, because I was noticing that we had some primary elections here in Arizona yesterday, and anyway, and some of them were upsetting me. And so I remember this morning in my meditation, I just felt like, okay, well, I'm going to surrender that, you know, maybe this is a time of incredible unrest, and maybe there'll even be a civil war of some sort. Well, okay, well, then I agreed to be here. So what is my role in
Yeah.
this? You know?
Right.
And I think when we take that resistance away, oh my God, the heart opens. We suddenly have our connection to the divine to get answers. We can lift above it. And in illness, oh, Susanne, that is such an important thing, to quit resisting it, you know?
Yes, it was a year of being tortured too. It feels like, because
Mhm.
I constantly was having a lumbar puncture test or a
Mhm.
bone marrow biopsy. I've had like so many of those, and it just was almost a post-traumatic stress disorder type of thing
Yeah.
where it's, yeah, and but just to like surrender and breathe and like, I'll do what I can.
Mhm.
But so, resisting and hating something,
Mhm.
like you said, makes things a lot worse and your heart gets closed and you get bitter and angry, and we do not need that.
We
So,
do not. It doesn't help us at all. And, you
no.
know, I'm reminded of a time, when I got pregnant. I was 43, and I'd never been pregnant before, and I literally threw up all day, every day for about 5
Oh,
months. I mean, really.
horrible.
And it runs in my family. Like, many of my female relatives have been hospitalized for that, you know, and so
Wow.
it didn't catch me totally
I
off
hear that's
guard.
horrible.
But what I found, I had a spiritual friend who was such a teacher for me, and I was saying to him, you know, Joseph, I can't do this anymore. Like, everything I eat, I'm throwing it up. I feel terrible. And I was working too. I was still editor of a magazine. And he looked at me and he said, look, if you got to throw up for God, you know? He said,
Wow, I love it.
yeah, he said, throw up for God. Be grateful that you are throwing up. Be grateful that you're pregnant. Throw up for your baby. Quit fighting it. I swear
Yeah.
that changed everything. Like, I could even then sit there and eat a meal and go, all right, I'm going to throw up for God, you know, and because I
Yes,
wasn't
right.
resisting the lesson. And that is what it is for you to walk through this year of incredible torture. I mean, you should tell the listeners, you even had, what is it that happened in your lungs? You describe it.
Yes. It was like when I was down and out with my chemotherapy, I got an infection called invasive aspergillosis, and this aspergillus got into my right lung,
Mm.
and it's a fungal infection, and it's resistant to most of the medications these days. And the one that works pretty well is an IV, but you can't have it very long. You have to have it in the hospital, obviously, and it's well really hard on your liver. Anyway, so that made me, they thought I was going to die. That was one of the times, and I think I was close to it.
Mhm.
It caused a pulmonary artery aneurysm as well,
Mm.
um, which was large, and it was pushing on my bronchi, and it collapsed my right lung.
Mm.
They were going to take out my right lung, but then they did pulmonary function tests and they found that I was only 40% of what I should be breathing. And
Mhm.
so they said I would die during surgery.
Oh
Thank goodness my
my
lung didn't get taken out, because now I still have those problems, but the pulmonary artery aneurysm has shrunk a lot.
Mhm.
And the thoracic surgeon um, told me he's never ever seen that happen, and
Wow,
it's shrunk about to one third of the size it was, and that's just amazing. That's another miracle I've had. So
that is amazing. And, I was wondering, well, actually, you and I have talked about this before, if during the process of all of this, if you felt the presence of or had communication with your departed mom or departed sister.
I definitely felt them close to me a lot.
Mhm.
My sister was head of laboratory sciences at the University of Tennessee when she was alive. She died of cancer, lung cancer. But anyway, she was always. I felt like she was helping me with the hard laboratory things, and
Mm.
that was just like her. I'd call her if I had questions about a patient's labs, and she was just always there for me. And I feel like she was. When I was really having tough times, I really felt her presence a lot.
Mhm.
And my mother, like, daily,
Mm.
like, I just feel her, like, right there with me, and she's always smiling at me, and, she said, "I love you, sugar baby and honey child," and she just was adorable to me, just
Aw.
holding me.
So obviously, your soul wanted to stay here, feeling that you're still not done with your soul mission. And I do believe we have all of us have several potential soul exit points where we can say, all right, well, this is as far as I can
Mhm.
go, or I'm done. But you being such a beautiful, highly evolved soul, you just kept saying, no, I'm here to get this right. I'm going to stick around and really learn what I'm supposed to learn here. You beautiful
Yeah, you're
soul.
right, Sue. Yeah,
And
and
so go ahead.
oh, sorry to interrupt you. You go ahead.
You go ahead.
I didn't realize that I had that option until I was very sick and near to death, and I could see so close beyond the veil. I could see into it. I could see my mother, like, right there. I could really feel her. In fact, I called you one time because I felt like that she wanted me to come over into the other side, and I didn't want to.
Mhm.
And that was last year, and I really didn't want to go, but I could have at so easily chosen that.
Mhm.
And you told me it was just her being there for me, that she was so present. And I almost was like, wanted to tell her to go away
Mhm.
only because I didn't want to leave this earth. I have more work to do, and I do want to get it right.
Right. Well, on that note, when you really look at all of this from your soul's point of view, do you have an idea of why you've stayed? What is your next purposeful work or existence about here in this lifetime?
I'm not quite sure of all of it yet. When 2022 started, I decided to make kind of a mantra for myself, and I came up with this acronym, SOAR,
Mhm.
which is SOAR, obviously, but it meant surrender, obey, act, and receive.
Beautiful.
And so I constantly have reminded myself through the year to surrender to all of God's will in my life, even if it didn't make sense to me, even if it, is like crazy at times.
Mhm.
But I have had very clear messages of what I need to do. And then you need to obey. You
Mm.
can't just, hear the message without obeying. So there were, I needed to obey. And then action, I need to take action. And that was very clear to me because there are a lot of things you need to do to change your life. And
Mm.
those are our action steps that we have to do. And
Mhm.
then the last thing was receive. And I definitely have received a lot, but I haven't received clear instructions yet on what I'm going to be doing.
Mhm.
And so I'm waiting for that. So part of, I think, the hard lessons is waiting,
Yeah.
and patience, right? We
Well,
want things
that's
now, like you said.
yeah. I mean, I think the hard part of the human journey is that we surrender and we go, okay, I'm on my knees surrendering to the lesson.
Hmm.
Okay, tell me what the lesson is. I'm ready for the next step. And we don't want to spend any time in that moment of unknowing, of surrender.
Right.
No, and yet my favorite story from Jesus's journey in the Bible, because I'm an ordained unity minister and we see the whole story of Jesus's life as him being an enlightened teacher for humanity. And what I love is the story of the Garden of Gethsemane, where he goes in there to
Mm,
pray, knowing that a lot of suffering is coming his way. And
yeah.
he actually begs, he says, please take this cup away from me if I don't have to drink this. And then after a little more time in prayer, he says, okay, if this is my cup to drink, thy will be done.
Hmm.
I will, not my will. And, and to those of us who
Yeah.
look at it metaphysically, that means the will of the divine source and our own God consciousness rather than the will of ego and personality.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
That's beautiful.
So you've probably had time to think about your life, do your own soul review, because when we're sick, we do kind of
Wow.
review our life and we go, well, gee, if I left tomorrow, how would I view this lifetime? And would my soul be happy with what I've done and learned? And so I always like to ask my interviewees, who lives, who dies, who tells your story, how would you like your story to be told, or how would you like to see it from the divine realms if you were to leave now?
I just want to continue doing I want to walk my highest path now. And I feel like I was so busy, doing work that I didn't always ask for that.
Mhm.
So I really want to do that. And I also have had I've had visions during this year of living dangerously and the crucifixion of
Mhm.
myself, where I clearly saw that the angels, which we know are they help us on this earth plane. That's what they do.
Mhm.
And I think that they would love to be here and be able to do what we do, like, walk this walk on this earth, even though it's incredibly hard at
Mhm.
times. It's kind of messy, right? And it's dense.
Yes.
Like yeah, and it's like easy to get caught up in the mucky muck and the ickiness. And that we have a great privilege to be here in this dimension.
Mhm.
And this calling we have to raise consciousness of others around us and raise our own. And I feel like all the divine guidance that we have, and even not even, but the loved ones that have passed, have are looking to us. I feel like that the angels and our loved ones are cheering us on, like, come on, you can do this, let's
Right.
go, and they were so happy for us that they, and some of them didn't get to finish their work here, and they wish that they could have more time. And we have time here, and how
Mhm.
can we grasp it and do our best work with it while we have
And that's
time?
so beautiful. Because in my times when I've left my body and visited the divine realms in this lifetime, I've understood right away that the moment we return and leave our body, it feels like we've only been gone from the divine realms for a minute. All of our loved
Yeah.
ones are there and greeting us as if we've been just went down to the grocery store for a minute and now we're back. And yet when we're down here, it feels like forever the way time impacts us here. And so many of us do hit these points where we say, oh, I just can't do this anymore, I'm exhausted, I'm just done. And yet if we can look at it from that soul perspective of, hey, this is just one breath in the long journey of your soul
Yes.
evolution. Enjoy it, embrace it, use it for growth, use it to help others. Be grateful that you're still here. Get it done so that when you cross over, you can look at it and go, man, I gave it all I had every minute of every day. And you have done that, Susanne.
Well, you try that. I guess you never feel like you're perfect, do you, Sue?
Well, none of us are, but that's the
Mm.
thing too that we're all trying to learn, I think, is that nobody and nothing is perfect in the physical realms. There are no perfect personalities, no perfect physical beings, yet our souls are always perfect because they are part of God
Mhm.
consciousness. And I think that's a hard lesson down here And I think that's something even in illness helps us remember, because a lot of the times we spend our work hours, our daily hours trying to do things perfectly, trying to be perfect, and
Yes.
assuming that other people are perfect, even though they're not. And it's kind of like the veil of ignorance here is believing that we're even here to try to be perfect when we're not here for that. We're here to grow and evolve.
Yes, and I love what you said about the soul, and our soul is like calling us to this higher level, you
Mhm.
know, of of being,
Mhm.
and not to get caught up, like you said, in the ego. Our egos are
Mm.
huge, and I wondered how many times that my ego has to die, before it's finally dead. That it's like it keeps popping up, and
I know.
so yes.
Well, is there anything else you want to add or tell us, Suzanne?
I just um I just know that whatever path that I'm put on is going to be better, even though I don't know what that is yet,
Mhm.
for healing myself, others. That the work I'm going to do is going to be even better than what I've done in the past because God is so involved. And so just
That's right.
trusting that and feel very, very thankful. I'm going to talk about you for a second, Sue. I think I first started working with you in 2010 or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I think so.
And and I so that's like 12 years of beautiful.
Mm.
I just am like so impressed with you, and you have helped me so much. Just kind of just always wanting me to, go to the higher path, and you always want me to write books, which I'm working on two of them, and
Good.
hopefully some speaking. So I just wanted to thank you for all your great work that you do to help so many people.
Well, I always say that we heal ourselves as we help heal others. And, working with people like you, I consider you to be my teacher. Like I have learned so much about love and grace from you. Um, Even this past year, watching how you would hit a bump in the road in your illness and then rally and be loving and kind and just looking for the answer. And oh my gosh, and I've lost, a lot of people I love to cancer, and I've watched how they fight it and resist it and struggle with it. And so I know what a hard journey it is. And to watch you go through it the way you have, I feel like it's a beacon of light for all of us to see your example, to read your story, because I really want you to write and share it. And if today you were talking to someone who had just been diagnosed with a serious illness or even with a serious cancer, what would you say to them?
Oh, honey, just embrace it. Like, whether you stay or whether you go, like, make the most of these moments because even though it's been hard,
Mhm.
it's bittersweet. And now that I'm on the other side of it, the other side of this year of, very much living dangerously, I feel like it's very, very sweet. I have so much thankfulness for the experience.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think if we cannot resist it and just kind of be there, be here now,
Mhm.
that's the good mantra, be here now.
Yeah.
Um, just totally be here, love yourself, love whatever you're going through. I think it's so much easier.
And offer our suffering up to God or God consciousness,
Yes,
whatever words are good for you. Offer your suffering up to that higher consciousness.
yes, and use me however you want to.
That's
Oh,
a
I love that.
beautiful, yeah, that's a very beautiful phrase. Use me, God consciousness for all of our highest good. I surrender my will. I surrender my ego.
I
Oh
love
my
that.
gosh, Suzanne, I love talking to you.
I
All
love talking to you.
Well, on that
Thank
note,
you.
we'll say goodbye on this mystical conversation podcast. And if you, Suzanne, do you want to give out a website or a social media, or are you still kind of playing it low and quiet for a while?
Well, I do have one but it doesn't have like my new work on it yet. But it's 360 Wellness Centers. That's plural. 360wellnesscenters.com.
Yeah. So if people
Um,
wanted to email you or something, they could go to that site and send you a message.
that's right.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Because I know that this will inspire people. And I know that your next level of work is going to be helping people so deeply and profoundly. So it's my honor to know you, and it's my honor to talk to you today. And on that note, if anybody wants to know more about my work or have a mystical conversation with me, I'm Sue Frederick, and my website is SueFrederick.com. Thank you so much, everyone.